there. Good morning, Luke. How are you?
I'm very well, Yogesh. How are you?
Thanks. I'm good, thank you. To the audience here, I'm going to introduce Luc Richner, the CEO of CANNAVIGIA. It's a top-notch traceability company out of Switzerland. They've been all around the globe focusing on compliances, traceability for extraction, cultivation, digitizing standards, processes and regulations to make them secure, readily available, and viable for the emerging industry that we are in. So here we go. Thank you so much, Luke. I will go ahead and ask you a little bit about your personal journey in the cannabis space and what got you here.
Well, Yogesh, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me. I think, Buffalo Extraction, great company that we had the pleasure to work with and meet along the way. I was grew up partially in Asia and come from logistics, supply chain management, international trade. But general denominator in my career was supply chain management. And with that, quality control and different parts, there's a lot of things that go into an integral international supply chain. And I always looked at the cannabis industry from living in Asia from a distance, seeing these crazy numbers in 2018, when Constellation Brands 4 billion into Canopy and so forth. And I was always like, well, there's something happening there. This is going to become a real industry. And I always said, when this is going to go global, then, and global for me at the time was not US and Europe. It was always for me Asia. There is no global without Asia. And you being from India, I don't have to sell you on why there's no global without Asia. So when Thailand happened, medical in 2018, overnight, I started to look into, what can be done. And the plan in the beginning was to start to do supply chain management, logistics, not the trading angle, but really just being a facilitator. Very soon realized that it's not possible yet. Simply, there was no standardization, there was no harmonization, there was no legal framework that allowed it. And with that, I came into this rabbit hole of trying to figure out how is it possible that so much money is being invested in an industry that in the end does still not have a market. There's billions and billions going into an industry that didn't have, or still partially only has a market. And what could be a driver? What could be something that kind of undermines and lets that market grow and flow? And then compliance, transparency, provenance, and all of that, all of those words that go in there always are a basis for. Or actually, standardization is a basis for any industry. And if there is no standardization already there, because it's a touchy subject, cannabis, the full transparency and so forth kind of was something that was lingering in the room. It needs to be taken 2 steps backwards and see how, what and why can be done to facilitate and enable, I would say, global trade. And whenever something new happens in the world that hasn't been completely done yet, there's a lot of room for innovation. Absolutely. And improvement. And I think you agree with what you're doing, that cannabis, the beauty of cannabis is there can be a lot of innovation and a lot of future forward thinking. And that was some of the motivating factors for what brought me here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Luke. And it's quite impressive and inspiring at the same time that you have this diverse experience from Indonesia, as I hear, from Thailand, from all over Europe, and you collect all of that from a supply chain background. You're on to solving the biggest problem of the cannabis industry, which is compliance and standardization. That's just fantastic. Tell us a little bit about the 2 different kinds of technologies that CANNAVIGIA offers.
Okay, we have 2 main products. What we started to do in the beginning, we're like, okay, we see this has to have a certain level of compliance when it comes to cultivation, manufacturing, distribution. So let's say plant touching supply chain. And we looked, what is global gap? What is controlled union and medical cannabis standard? What is EU GMP, GACP, generally GMP, good manufacturing practices, good agriculture and collection practices. Those are the basis for medical plants globally. So the first part that we created really is this management system. It's like a quality control, quality assurance, quality management system that I always say it's everything like an ERP except the accounting side, because that is very different in every country when it comes to financial compliance and so forth. But the quality control, quality assurance is always the same. So what you do is you create a digital twin. You identify every single object within your facility. Let's take cultivation for now. You identify the rooms, the tables, the different materials that go in, the people, anything you can imagine, you put it into the system, and that then gives you a basis that is your digital twin. And then every executing step that you do, you move a plant from hall A, from table 1 to table 2, or room 2 to 3, or whatever. You have a person giving a fertilizer. You have a fertilizer that comes in to your facility. The facility always have to have minimal stock of certain things. So there's a lot of different layers that all the little moving parts you then record with the app. It's actually made quite straightforward that you just have to scan one QR code, the other QR code. You can put a little deviation. So usually compliance is always, I always say compliance is always only as good as you make it available for the person that uses it. If you work with people in different levels of education, compliance is not the natural cause forward. Also recording everything. Now, fun fact, you know what? If you have a farmer, we also do projects, for example, with the palm oil in Indonesia. If you have a palm oil farmer in Indonesia or a cannabis cultivator in Switzerland or in a country that used to do it in the old days, they're both not used to record anything. Actually, there is a similar kind of problem. So we created then that cultivation, manufacturing, distribution part with the idea if we can do it in a way that also somebody that is not educated in full compliance it can be an added part to this today. So that is one part, which is the supply chain, and then that's the first space, and then we have Switzerland, and we're going to tell a bit more about that in a minute, I guess, has done these pilot projects, which are like a study on how adult use cannabis could look like in the future. And therefore, you need to have a certain reporting system, full traceability towards the health ministry. We then went through a process and won a 10-year contract with the Swiss Health Ministry for the entire traceability of the pilot projects.
But how will this have a positive impact on the industry in Switzerland, and as you see Germany and the likes of France and Czech Republic opening up? So this is one of the biggest projects that I hear CANNAVIGIA has made a contract with the Swiss Health Ministry. What is the impact on the larger scale? If you can give me an overview and the audience, that'll be nice.
With great pleasure. So I mean, we have, if you want to see the exact impact, you always have to see what is the general journey cannabis has been going, and where is it heading in the future, and what are the different moving parts. And if you look at the specific pilot projects, okay, with Switzerland, stick to Switzerland for now, in Europe, we had a big CBD boom. That CBD boom then in the same time in certain countries had the medical cannabis. Certain countries like Holland had a very long history, but in Holland you cannot produce, you cannot manufacture, but you can sell since 1970. So it doesn't need a rocket scientist to figure out that there will be some problems created through that. So then there was that next question is, what about adult use? Because and I'm a firm believer that we can drink alcohol. We should also be able to have access to clean. And when we drink alcohol, we drink something that is quality controlled, that has a certain level of trust that we're not being poisoned. And we have this whole I always say standardization, but we need a certain level of trust into the products that we consume. This is actually something that we all pay taxes for to the government, that they keep us safe from malicious practices from suppliers. And whenever some people argue against that, I say, so do you buy all your alcohol and all your food from non-registered suppliers? Do you buy everything off-label, off-market, or do you buy everything on market? And you go, oh yeah. So basically, so Switzerland then. The people voted to give the government kind of like, okay, move this forward in the direction of opening, legalizing testing first, in which direction this can go. And generally, at the moment in the world, we all signed the UN Single Convention Act, where it clearly states we cannot yet sell or supply recreational adult use cannabis, and there is 2 exemptions for it. Actually, one of them is if you can prove that it has a traditional medicine history in your country, which you're from India, Ayurvedic medicine, of course, there is a long history also with cannabis, so people can have access through that. A system. So there's an exemption for a country that can prove that there was a traditional medicine aspect, so that there is a long-term history with the plant, which happens in many countries around the world actually. And since you're from India, we take India as example, but also because India, the WHO has now created for the first time a global summit for traditional medicine, which is in August in Gujarat. And they also have a traditional medicine center from the WHO to harmonize all traditional medicine, again, quality control, quality standards in the back, and try to kind of it's not about regulating, but making sure it doesn't fall under other limitations. So it's really also about enabling it. So that is one side, and the other side is you can do studies. And Switzerland said, okay, we don't have the traditional medicine angle, so we can do studies. So what did they do? They created a framework that allows industry or stakeholder groups. You always have to have the health ministry has to sign it off. That's where we are the partner with. Then you have the municipality. Then you have the addiction board. You have police. You have the universities, because it always has to be a study. Then you have cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, point of sale, and the consumer, and all of that can be a study. And those studies in Switzerland have a few corner points, can be 5,000 people maximum. Everybody has to have consumed cannabis before 18 years and plus from age. And so there's many different layers that have to go in there. And why is this so special, and what is the amazing part about it? We all know there is, you can say, okay, there's tobacco, there's alcohol, there's these other kind of, regulated consumer goods, but in the end, cannabis is different, and it has a different point in every country, and also in every region in every country. So Switzerland said, okay, you guys come up with ideas, with studies, and that is what is happening right now. And we are, with all those studies involved, it is amazing. January 30th, the first legal gram of THC for adult use for recreational purposes in Europe. It's the first time legally from seed to the sell point, everything has legally been. So basically that model, that's what we do with that's the second part of the software, is this whole ecosystem, bringing it into one solution, kind of like a platform where they all have access to it. They have to then report that to the health ministry then to the UN afterwards. And now Germany went the same way. Germany also is doing these model regions. Well, Germany has a 3-4 pillar principle. One of them is they decriminalized own cultivation, self-cultivation and self-consumption. Then they have the social clubs that are being rolled out in the very near future. And then they will afterwards have these model projects. And that's where we are very active with. In the same time, Czech Republic is moving forward in the same direction, and there's some things in Portugal, there's some things in other parts of Europe. Holland, of course, is also doing a model project, for the whole country, but it took them 6 years to start. So Switzerland started later with the formulation and started earlier with the actual rollout. But we're very excited to see what our friends in the Netherlands are doing. And why is this important for the industry, and where does this bring us further? So we had the boom of the CBD and the medical, and then now we have that adult use. And in the end, adult use will be by far the biggest market. And a long time was like, okay, how can this, what will this go and look like forward? And now we've, I always say, you can dream about 100%, but if 100% never comes, good to start with 20. So you can dream about full legalization, you can dream about full access like it would be another consumer good, but that's not realistic because you don't have the legal framework for it, you don't have all these different parts for it, you don't have the supply chain for it, you don't have quality. There's so many parts that you don't have yet. So what is happening now is we got 20% kind of thing, right? So the industry has a chance now to prove that they can deal with 20%, and then from there they can gradually grow. And at some point, this leads to being possible to just open the market. So it's a slow, steady process. In general, Europe is looking very much for a non-speculative harm reduction approach and does not want to have the same mistakes like Canada, and with massive investments with crazy numbers into cultivation, and then nobody buys it in the end because the quality doesn't compare to the illicit market, and the US is still federally legal, so it's a complete other mess that is happening over there. So they really, and in the same time, those billions went into not interstate, but in the states, the projects. So Europe tries to take a slower approach. I'm not here to judge which approach is the better, but I think slow and steady wins every race. All the fast, quick, trying to make a fast, quick buck in this, and this is what I really, and then I'll let you continue, but there is no quick buck to be made in any industry. So all these different things out there that promise you can make a fast turnover or fast this, or it doesn't matter on what scale of investment, this is something to stay away from, because in the end of the day, there's no quick buck to be made.
Absolutely. And no, look, I love the approach around not just empowering the end user, empowering companies on compliance, traceability. As you spoke about your pilot projects in Switzerland and the German market moving, Europe opening up, this kind of reporting that you provide to the governments is going to be leading, the word you used is non-speculative, no harm approach, and that's just fantastic, because as you mentioned, the lessons that we are learning from, although Europe is west for me, from the extreme west, is is saying that overcapitalization, over leveraging their assets, and banking on it as a gold rush, and the valuation game, right? You are here solving real problems. CANNAVIGIA is working ground up. We are not trying to make a quick buck. In fact, I feel that even though they say it's late, but I don't think it's late. It's anyhow late. One of my favorite authors, he says, nobody can stop an idea whose time has come. And I think the cannabis industry is a reflection of that, on how it's moving very carefully, peacefully, and making sure we are learning the lessons from Cannabis 1.0. And that's a good spot to be in. And with the organizations like yourself and entrepreneurs like yourself leading the change, I think we wouldn't be like, change leaders are never after the buck. So if we were after the buck, we would have been men of transactions. You could be doing the stock market, but we are here trying to lead a change, and then the impact should follow. And thanks to you that's happening from the background you bring, and the expertise that CANNAVIGIA offers to the industry. Moving on, though, you said Germany is opening up adult use. Switzerland is open, as you mentioned. Is that correct?
I'd like to just to the last thing you say, and then we go into the question, because there's something really near and dear to me there. Yes, we're doing great now, but my three co-founders, and I, we didn't pay each other a salary for 2 years. We put all our money into this and worked like 12 to 14 hours a day, and it could have gone bust, but it's self-financed until now. So it's really important to understand, slow and steady. Yes, it's hard work, and this general speculative side of things. It's textbook economics. Every industry that has a boom follows a bust, follows another boom, follows another bust. This happens 3 times, and every time a bit less, and then the third time there is a mini bust, and that then becomes that becomes then the realistic market. So US is already the second bust. Europe just had the first bust. India is in the Asia is in the first boom. So you have different continents that have the different stages they're in. So this whole part of, oh no, it's over. It's not over. It's in Europe, it's the M&A phase now, where consolidation happens, and the ones that come out of it will then go in the next boom phase, which we're already feeling the next boom phase over here. So this is and cannabis loves to think they are different. They love to think that, oh, we're cannabis, we reinvent the wheel and write new everything, and we need new laws that have never been thought through before for other products, and economics will not work like they will work in other dynamics. It's exactly the same. It's just a bit more here, a bit less there, and a bit this and that, and not. But in the end, there's always analogies. There is always parallels to be drawn to past to other industries, and I don't think at all it's too late. I think now is the best time to get ready, and but there is a lot of opportunities, a lot.
You got to stand through the thick and thin of the industry to benefit your customer as well as your organizations. And speaking of that, what's your take on the industry moving to the API space for active pharma ingredients and making FDA approved medicines? Like, what is that looking like in Europe?
In Europe, there's a lot that this plan helps with, and the more we understand about it, and this is when I always tell to everyone, put some money together in associations and start to do some, clinical studies and so forth, because you all know there is more things that can be proven that it works for. But with more understanding for all of this comes more support from the one thing is always you need the people then lead to bring regulators to that point, and health practitioners are in the end the voice of the people, and so there's a big move towards understanding what it does. Nobody yet fully understands why it does it, and this is a big problem when you create pharmaceutical products. Usually you have to identify why certain things work, what are the receptors they interlink with, and when you have so many active ingredients as you have in a normal cannabis plant. I see more proof, and I see more understanding for that truth.
In general, and this is great as you speak, that there is this general trend around pharma companies and cannabis companies coming to make APIs from a traceability standpoint, from their seed purchase to their final extract. Just tell us a little bit about that. Educate us a little about, say, like, how does that help the end user, and is that compliance makes, I hear it's not a medicine until it complies by GACP and GMP norms, until the government sees the traceability.
So one thing is, at the moment, everybody yells about, we got to do medical cannabis and send it to Germany, and tell you Germany cannot take the whole world's cannabis. There's 2 facilities in Switzerland that theoretically could supply the whole of Germany. It's current demand in the medical space, that is. But what is, I'll take one step back and then go into that question. One thing is that as a cultivator, try to identify who is your buyer. The buyer will tell you what products he needs. The buyer will tell you which genetics he will buy. The buyer will tell you which level of compliance needs to go in it. Now, if you have a facility that is at the level that allows for medical grade production, then they will actually make a contract with you and trust you that you hold this this level of at what quality it's all about quality and standardization of the active and the standardization of the stabilization of the active ingredients. Because if you create a medicine, you have to always create the same batch over and over and over and over, or the same quality, the same thresholds with the active ingredients over and over and over again. So now we take, you're a cultivator, you found the person, you found a pharmaceutical company that is willing to purchase from you. Based on that, they will then say, these are the strains. There's no such things as strains, they're called cultivars. And I know somebody will be listening to this will be very proud about me that I don't say strains. It's cultivars when we talk about medical. And basically, what happens there is they will tell you which cultivar is it registered in the respective country. Often they will also help you with the sourcing of that. Then in most countries you have to make a stability test, 3 harvests in the same level of quality that go throughout. And only then you can start to sell it into a pharmaceutical grade supply chain. That is what we do. We help you with, be it the standardization of your processes, be it the standardization of your general. I'm not saying farming techniques. That's not what it is. But really, the environmental aspects, with IoT data and so forth in it, to really show then that to the pharmaceutical company that everything you do as a cultivator is to their standards. And GACP, Good Agriculture and Collection Practice, is a self-imposed standard that has to be, so there's no actual government entity that can validate that you are GACP. It has to come from your buyer. Your buyer will then send an auditor to you and say, okay, or qualify the qualified person that will qualify the product that you send them. And where does a software like ours, or where does general traceability fall in place, is if your buyer can verify along your cultivation process that you do everything repeatedly the same, and you don't have, major changes in your climate, major changes in your heat, major changes in CO2 or so forth, which will then create many different development of active ingredients. So if you can show the standardization of that process flow continuously to your buyer, they will just, nobody wants to switch their suppliers. Every serious business, all they want is a clean, thought through, integral supply chain that they don't have to worry about, so they can focus on, be it the downstream or the upstream, whichever direction they're going. And this is something that one side, we can help with greatly, but also this is where these standardization frameworks come in place. And the nice thing is, and now we'll go into what we're doing together, Yogesh, you come from the manufacturing part, you are a supplier to the manufacturers that then turn this, be it into drying or into oils or the whole further chain. And what we offer as a common solution, or what we're doing there, really is to show that whole supply chain in the end works together and talks together, and you have a seamless handover from be it flour, be it biomass, then into your further production. And that then we can together show the end consumer, look, everything has been done perfectly along a certain level of compliance.
I think that's the tying these pieces together and helping as you mentioned, that manufacturers as a pharma company, be it in the recreational space or the medicinal space, they don't want to change their vendors, they don't want to change their buyers. I think tying these pieces up for them in one format and in one screen on one tablet, I think makes just their lives double easy with the compliance that comes on. Moving on from here, I mean, for Europe in general, they say Europe is, say, 96% of the market is, we saw that in Cannabis Europe, right? 96% of the market is North America. How do you see Europe, Asia, and the likes of South America tying up and building this market, making sure that we don't fall under another scenario that we go bust? Or what are things that entrepreneurs should be looking at when they are making new businesses And how do you anticipate that we grow in these other parts of the world? And you guys are everywhere. I see you guys are all around the globe and entering all the new markets at the same time.
Touch wood. I'm touching wood right now. We're very busy at the moment. We work very hard for it, and it's nice to be able to share when things are working. But we all have to also share that things don't always work, and this is very important that we state that, right? There is you have to try. You have to go on different angles, different sides. Try to fail fast, fail low, or fail small. And make sure you just test which direction you go. I'll share international markets, but first I'll share something about how we started. We wanted to do logistics. We came in the industry trying to do logistics with the idea of that we have a global logistics network very close to us, and realized the logistics are not possible. Fast forward to today, we have a software company with customers in 18 countries and a 10-year contract with the health ministry selling software, not doing logistics. Why did we get there? Because we tried and tried and tried. And Philip, if my co-founder Philip would be here, he would tell you he tried and tried and tried and tried to do logistics and realized this is just unscalable, mumbo jumbo mess. Yeah, not just too hard, but it's a mess. And out of that we learn. So start with an idea, start with something that you think you have, but then stay flexible. Any startup in the beginning has to stay flexible and agile, as they say, to be able to move which different direction you have insights in. So I think this is a very, very important piece of advice to young entrepreneurs out there. Really try and don't raise on somebody else's big don't raise on somebody else's a business plan for a cultivation 20 million and hope that it then works out, but really try to go through that. Those are some of those things. But what I would then really like to share about the international markets are every market has a different point. So if you want to start in the US, it's quite a saturated, tough market. If you want to stay in Latin America has different opportunities, different countries. I tell everybody out there, selling GMP flower to Germany is not the golden ticket out of this. There's companies that do that will be very hard to beat, and they're very professional. And so this is not the point of entry for, I would say, a young entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. This is for established big companies. Then you have, let's stick to Latin America for a second. You have countries like Uruguay, where it's a complete different point of there. You try to create a domestic, or you work in a domestic market. Colombia is looking at that. There's slowly but surely developing some things in that direction. We just installed the first software in Paraguay. There's a complete different strategy there to be had. So depending on which level of development a certain country has, there's different strategy in different parts to be done. So I would always suggest study the international markets, study markets that are further than your market, and look at South Africa, and that's where we first met, I believe, right? South Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and all the countries around. All the countries have a bit of different 0.0. In Zimbabwe, it's all about CBD and flower and export, and there's a big market for that in the world, but there is no market for that domestically. South Africa is having general issues at the moment in all different parts, but they're trying to create a domestic market, but there's no legal basis for it yet. And the export part, Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, there's always a nice play together to make there. Again, see where you can sell your product or what service or whatever, and try to find a way to maneuver around that. If you look at Europe, you have Switzerland now that is very generally developed overall, as a Switzerland is in any different other industry. Cannabis is still very niche, and there's still a lot to be done with it. Not just to be inspired by the US, because I tell you, this is not the US. This time where the whole world follows what the US does is long gone. So we have very different 0.0s here that we can work for. Thailand, of course, is very interesting and going in a very nice direction at the moment. Yes, people say, oh no, it's going to be rescheduled to Schedule 5 now with the new election going, but that just means that there is a framework. And what I like about what I like about Thailand, and this is something that I'm not
No, no,
giving
no.
advice. I just want to tell everybody out there, I'm not giving advice. I'm just sharing my experience. If you look at Thailand, why do I like Thailand so much? Thailand has allowed for a domestic market to happen first. Thailand said, okay, here you go, bam, run with it. Yes, it created chaos. Whenever you let cannabis run, it creates chaos. The industry thinks it's too smart for the world and outsmarts itself, and then always creates a big backlash afterwards. But Thailand they created a domestic market. Then investment came into all the other parts, cultivation and so forth. But they first and foremost already created a domestic market.
Correct.
That means any investment in Thailand potentially has already in that country somebody that pays it off. That there's a market there. Most other countries, and unfortunately, and this is really unfortunate, a lot of them in developing countries have been sold by the same group of cowboys, the people that bring hope and big revenue to a country. And in the end, if you build in a developing country a future kind of facing facility, and you don't have a buyer for it, it just creates issues. Yes, you get money for it. Yes, you can make money on the consulting, on building and so forth. But down the line, you have to be able to create something that also creates sales. And if the country
Absolutely.
doesn't have trade agreements with another country that theoretically has a market for it, then there's no chance further. So these are some of the issues that we see globally. Every country has different points, different challenges, different parts. And there's great opportunities. I am very bullish on Asia in general. I'm very bullish on the cannabis market globally. It's not going to happen globally the way it happened in the US, simply because this speculative system where you future kind of pay, where everything is done on storylines and not on actual productions, that has stopped, not just because it's outside of the US, but actually because we're in a down cycle in the global financial system. So it's not about speculation. It's about actually more sustainable business models and creating break even. So that all leads to a situation right now where we can, with a good idea and good execution, and you always have to dream, but nothing comes for free and nothing comes fast. You can still be a lot faster at the point in cannabis in your development of your career or in your business than you would be in other more saturated markets. And I hope that gave a little bit of an overview.
No, that's
This is
a
not
great lesson.
consulting. This is not advice. This is just my personal opinion. Little disclaimer.
No, and I think this on point because it's selfless opinion and it's valuable. It's a very valuable piece of advice. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Looking ahead and with this, what is, Luke, what is the one thing you are most excited or the biggest opportunity that you see on the horizon for CANNAVIGIA?
On the CANNAVIGIA side and the industry side, CANNAVIGIA at the moment, we're in all these countries and on a B2B level and learn greatly from our customers there. Our approach is always kind of, find the right partner, cultivation first and then manufacturing in each country to work with, learn from their needs for the country and then kind of develop further in those countries from there. We now have this contract with the Health Ministry, 10 years in Switzerland for pilot projects. This is the basis that every country in the world, if they decide to move forward legalization, they don't need to change their own laws completely. They can do this in a very light way. They have to change their own laws, yes, but they don't have to try to, approach the UN and try to change which is what other or overpower like basically Canada just did. That we don't give a because our only trade partner doesn't care more or less. So these model projects, as they're called in Germany, these pilot projects in Switzerland, these general studies that can be done. This is for us the most exciting part. This is something where we really see a lot of potential, not just in Europe, also in many other countries around the world, because it is a basis that allows for small legalization pockets to move forward instead of having to do it all over one country. It allows an industry to be created. You can only, in a model project, you can, or in a pilot project, you can only cultivate as much as you know you can sell. So everybody that is part of these model projects is a lot of reduced risk of overproduction, of failing, and so forth. Also, it is really, you can create customer loyalty because you can really bring an entire supply chain together and work something out together. This can be like this can come from cities, from states, from government angles. But for example, in Switzerland, this is also coming from the industry. So this is the first time also that the industry can come together, and there's some groups of cultivator manufacturers, and they were by point of sales that went to cities and to municipalities in Switzerland, said, look, we would like with you together to do this, this, and this. And the municipality said yes, but based out of an approach from the industry. So it's a bottom-up stakeholder approach. Some people call it grassroots. I don't really would like to call it grassroots because it takes a bit more thinking of also different parties together. So it's the grassroots, or maybe that bottom-up that is trying to approach a regulator for a project, but then it's all of them that have to come together. And that's what I think is the most beautiful thing of what is happening in Switzerland right now. Is it's a stakeholder-led analysis on how legalization can move forward. And then based on that stakeholder analysis, you can create, or the government can create, a legal framework that then allows for legalization. And this is something that I am really excited about. And it really, so there's a really nice, for me and for us as a company, exciting momentum there. If you look at the pharma industry, they have a crazy lobby. Yes, they have a lot of money that they're making. Cannabis is also making money. There's no lobbies. There's small lobbies. There's small approaches here and there. There's small industry associations. In the end, don't underestimate the power of the people and the power of an industry coming together and trying to also push their own agendas. And if you don't come together as a bottom-up approach, then the ones from the top down will do it, and then everybody will be complaining. So don't complain, stand together, figure this out, and try to, whichever stage your country is at, voice your opinion and go in a certain direction, and don't just sit back and hope it will happen, because then it will not happen in your interest.
That's thank you so much. That's such a valuable piece of insight. And I like the end part saying, hey, doing is important. We can all read and think about it, but doing is really underrated.
And one last statement that I really I'm happy always to share is, what do we do in life, and how do we spend our days, and how do we spend our hours? And yes, I know you have been very hardworking. I've been very hardworking because I saw you hardworking and you saw me hardworking around, I think, on 3 continents now. We've met each other. What's the beauty about cannabis? You work in an industry where it's very easy to make friends. There's a lot of really nice people that are trying to follow their dream and do something in this space. So what I really like about the industry is you meet a lot of friends, or you make a lot of friends, and you meet a lot of people that are not just work colleagues. In the end, we have a chance to do work in an industry here that there's a lot of nice people, and we enjoy the people that we work with. And I think this is a very, very motivating factor, at least for me, to work in this industry. So yeah, to friendship.